Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Their pharmacists are here to help, offering a wide range of vaccines including flu, COVID, pneumonia, and RSV immunizations. Visit your local Safeway or schedule online at safeway.com/pharmacy.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Like it or not, AI is part of your life. It's already been embedded in the podcast app you're using right now, for example, and its presence seems to be growing exponentially. So, in this episode, you'll get news stories that all involve ways you'll have to adapt to the tidal wave of AI. I'm Bazi Kanai. Coming up, what you should know about driverless cars that will soon share the roads in Metro Denver.
As the vehicles get trained up over the next year, the police department should have enough time to try to figure out how to handle crashes.
Then, the wild west of data centers.
This is Google's data center. Over here, kind of the nondescript concrete building.
How more AI data centers will compete for energy and water. Plus, authors here who are part of a massive settlement with an AI company may not take the money.
They used our work to create basically a whole business that was designed to destroy professional writing.
What it could mean for other creative industries. It's Wednesday, October 15th. Here's the news in Colorado Today. Maybe you've caught a glimpse of Denver's newest transplants whirring around town. Waymo, the self-driving taxi service, is here. Human drivers are still in the cars while the company maps the city's roads. But sometime next year, you will be able to hail a ride from one of these driverless cars. And that's raising an important question. Who's responsible if you or your car gets hit by a Waymo? Denverite's Kyle Harris has found some answers about oversight for autonomous vehicles. Kyle, Waymo is already up and running, fully driverless in 5 U.S. cities. That includes San Francisco and Austin. How are those cities handling the legal side of things?
First of all, Waymo has to follow the rules of the road as they're written. But because the technology is so new, policymakers in cities and states where Waymo's already been rolled out are basically forced to respond to issues as they arise. Now, maybe listeners have seen videos of Waymos getting endlessly stuck in traffic circles or ignoring police officers trying to direct traffic.
Sir, we cannot move. We're sorry. This car won't let us move. We're not driving!
It's extremely sad. So, another Waymo, incidentally, was pulled over for an illegal U-turn during a DUI enforcement effort outside San Francisco.
So what happens when Waymos mess up like that? How did the company and local law enforcement deal with that situation?
What's pretty interesting, this was just a few weeks ago, and California doesn't have a law on the books to cite autonomous vehicles for traffic violations. Now, that's set to change next July when law enforcement can start handing out, quote-unquote, notices of autonomous vehicle noncompliance to self-driving companies in the state. Waymo did have to fork up $65,000 for parking violations its vehicles incurred in 2024. That's according to San Francisco's Municipal Transportation Agency.
You've given us a couple examples there of Waymos behaving badly. How safe are these vehicles compared to other drivers on the road?
There's still not a ton of data. Waymo launched its first driverless cars in Phoenix in 2020 and then started offering autonomous rides to San Franciscans last year. And they have been involved in some fatal accidents, but they've not been at fault. The company's data suggests that its vehicles are actually safer. than human drivers.
That's not really hard to imagine.
Not at all. I mean, you bike around this town, you see people on their phones. Road rage is a massive problem, and at least 60 people have been killed by human drivers in Denver this year alone. A spokesperson for Colorado's Department of Transportation and Infrastructure said as long as Waymo can follow all of our state's traffic rules, it's welcome here.
What if you're driving the old-fashioned way and get in a wreck with a Waymo?
It's pretty similar. So you call 911. You may have to follow the Waymo until it finds a safe spot to park. And the company says the windows will then automatically roll down and you could talk to the support team through the console, which would be a little awkward as we're getting used to this. If that doesn't work, you have to contact Waymo online.
Overall, Kyle, it doesn't sound like there's a ton of regulations for Waymo other than, follow traffic laws. Will the city of Denver place any of its own rules on the vehicles?
No. The state generally bans cities from setting their own individual traffic policies. As far as oversight goes, companies like Waymo only have to submit their vehicles for testing if they aren't fully capable of following traffic laws. As the vehicles get trained up over the next year, the police department should have enough time to try to figure out how to handle crashes and strange behavior by Waymos. The truth is, we probably won't know a whole lot until these things are shuttling people across Denver without a driver and potentially making mistakes along the way.
And sounds like that day is coming soon.
Absolutely.
Denverite's Kyle Harris. Thanks.
Thanks, Bazzi.
Big tech is looking for places that can accommodate its AI storage problem, and increasingly, the solution lies in the Mountain West, where there's lots of open land and tax incentives from many states. Yesterday, we learned about a new data center in North Denver that could affect air quality. In other communities across the West, these data centers will use lots of power and water, which is already in high demand because of drought. CPR's climate team collaborated with the Mountain West News Bureau on the Wired West, exploring this boom in data center growth. Climate editor Tegan Wendland joins us now. Tegan, first, let's talk about the amount of power these data centers demand.
It's a lot, like a lot. The Department of Energy estimates the demand from data centers could nearly triple in the next 3 years. Nationally, they could use up to 12% of all energy.
Wow.
And Chris Wright, the energy secretary, says he expects more of it to come from natural gas. One of our stories was reported from Tempe, Arizona, where a utility is paying a pipeline company from Texas to send more natural gas for data centers there.
Can data centers use a cleaner energy, like solar, for example?
So like I said, they need a ton of power, and it needs to be consistent. It can't ebb and flow with the sun or wind. They have to run 24/7. They can't have power outages or it interrupts service for users of ChatGPT or Google searches, for example. Our series found that the industry is turning away from renewables, saying they're not reliable.
It's going to take more generation. It's going to take dispatchable, reliable generation that can be dispatched at nighttime.
Kevin Thompson is the chair of the Arizona Corporation Commission. That state is trying to go carbon neutral. And now, because of all these new data centers, they're actually tossing that goal. They're saying they can't do it. But some data centers are trying it out. One of our stories was reported from Wyoming, where a company called Prometheus Hyperscale is trying to build the first carbon neutral data center.
Tell us more about that. How's it going?
Well, Trenton Thornock is the founder, and he's promising that his flagship facility will produce all of its own power, recycle its water, use efficient cooling systems, and even use the heat from the constantly running servers to grow microgreens and farm shrimp.
Shrimp is not the kind of ranching Wyoming is known for.
Right.
That's amazing.
But ultimately, they're going to have to buy carbon credits in order to offset their use of natural gas if they actually want to be carbon neutral.
Which means then fossil fuels are still part of the energy needs there. What about water? That's obviously a precious resource here in the West. What kind of demand do data centers have for that?
So data centers servers generate a ton of heat, and many of them use huge amounts of water for cooling. A hydrologist from Stanford compared them to plants that you have to constantly water. They're always thirsty. This might be the most startling in Reno, Nevada. It's the driest state in the country, and it's a data center hotspot with a mega development just east of the city that's larger than the city itself.
This is Google's data center. Over here, kind of the nondescript concrete building.
Brian Arman is a commercial real estate broker who showed our reporter around the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. This is where global tech giants are building the backbone of the next iteration of the internet.
So this piece right here was recently acquired by Microsoft. It's about 226 acres.
They say they're going to use groundwater and treated wastewater. But the indigenous tribe downstream says that it'll cut into the water that flows to them, their literal namesake, the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe.
Every drop that's pulled out of the river is exactly that. That's a drop that doesn't make it to Pyramid Lake.
Tribal chairman Stephen Wadsworth says this lake is far more than just water to them. It's symbolic for the tribe, whose traditional name means fish eater. So all that's to say there's really no easy solution to this, and we'll have to see how it plays out. But this kind of conflict is only going to increase as more data centers get built across the West.
Thanks, Tegan, for your work on this series.
Thanks for having me, Bazi.
Our thanks also to reporters Greg Hani in Arizona, Hannah Merzbach in Wyoming, and Caleb Radel in Nevada. You can find more of their reporting at the link in the show notes. Some authors in Colorado are part of a settlement with a company that used their work without permission to train its AI.
My writing buddies and I joke that if we actually get any money, we'll go out and celebrate.
That's Laura Pritchett. She lives in Larimer County.
To be frank, it's going to be a sad celebration because we didn't want our creative work used to train AI overlords that will possibly replace us.
4 of Pritchett's books are listed in an online database of titles at the center of this copyright lawsuit. The company who used their works is Anthropic. It has investments from behemoths like Amazon and Google. Anthropic's AI is called Claude. The company downloaded copyrighted books and fed them into Claude.
I have to say, no amount of money makes me feel good about my creative work being used to train what I really think is a dangerous creation as it currently is being presented to us.
Anthropic settled the lawsuit brought by a large group of authors from around the world for $1.5 billion. It's a fraction of the company's $183 billion valuation, and it comes out to around $3,000 for each title in the database. But not every Colorado author who stands to benefit plans to accept that money.
Anthropic literally stole our books. They downloaded the books illegally, and they used our work to create basically a whole business that was designed to destroy professional writing. And so I'm pretty upset about it. I think
Scott Carney is a Denver author with 6 books in the database, but he's not taking the money, and he doesn't want other authors to either. Instead, he's encouraging them to lawyer up and go after Anthropic for more.
The thing about a settlement is that it doesn't go to a jury. They just sort of, pay a fine and they go on with their lives as it's just an expense. But if you're able to go in front of 12 humans who are sitting there listening to the case, I think that authors actually have a pretty decent shot at getting real damages.
Copyright law permits payments of up to $150,000 for willful infringement, and Carney hopes to get a little closer to that number because of the threat AI poses to artists.
This lawsuit is barely a speed bump, even though it's the largest copyright settlement in history. It's also the world's largest copyright theft.
Carney says he wants to send a message and prevent this practice from continuing. Other companies, including Meta, OpenAI, and Microsoft, have also been sued for using pirated books.
We have to do something. And this is something that we can do tactically. It could also
He's thinking of other industries, too. Artificial intelligence companies face copyright lawsuits from news organizations, visual artists, record companies, and even big entertainment companies like Disney. And any of these could set a critical precedent for how a rapidly growing AI industry uses creative works. Reporting for today's show also came from CPR's Tom Hess. Thanks for listening, and if you hear something you like, be sure to share it. I'm Bazi Kanani. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where you can shop online and get easy delivery or free pickup. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Shop the weekly ad, clip deals, and earn points at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.